Pulled up, made my appearance. You can't sit with us without clearance. That lame shit, never let it near us. And your girl will choose my team cause you still living with your parents. Flexing on the gram with your paycheck.
Welcome to another edition, another episode of the Commissioner's Corner. Now, last week was the premiere episode where we touched on our league championship guys from last year, 2022. Let's keep the buck rolling. Let's dive more deep into what we're going to discuss this season. In today's episode, I want to really know what's your strategy in fantasy football? Everybody got their vice. Everybody, got what they like to do in fantasy football. Everybody, just hone into this one particular strategy that they feel that's necessary that works for them. So, what is your strategy to fantasy football if you have one at all? I particularly really don't have one. I did use what we will get into later on in the show. One of the strategies I did use last year, and it worked for me. I didn't bring a championship in, but it worked for me. So, it made my record a little better. I was able to manage my team a little bit better than on previous seasons. So it's all about what is your strategy if you have one on today's episode. Let's go. So with this first strategy that I want to talk about, a lot of people may be familiar with this one. A lot of people may not. That would be the Cuddy system. This system was created by Joseph Roberts, the fantasy football counselor. Let's see what the Cuddy system is. For those who don't know, consistency, upside, durability, depth, and youth. Three or five should be used out of this system. That's what they say. So that's whether it's that standard or PPR. Consistency, upside, durability, depth, and youth. Using three of these in your draft to draft a player, or even when you're acquiring a player through trade, should be used. Let's get a little more depth into it. You should consider using this system when you are weighing your options out on drafting a specific player. History has told us that it is not wise to go all in on your draft, just based off the consensus or assumptions of your favorite analysts week in and week out, whether it be someone from ESPN, anyone that you follow, so even be from the commissioner corner. So, it's just a system that, a lot of people feel the need to use. So, a lot of people don't know about the Cuddy system. I found out about the Cuddy system a few years back, and it does work. So, I will put that shameless plug out there. Joseph Roberts, the fantasy football counselor. That system does work. So you just got to pick your poison with that, and whatever vice works for you, that's what we go to. So, like I said, today is all about what strategy that you use. Shameless plug, Tribe Heart. Visit us on Toot and Tout. Get your mugs, get your coffee. Let's keep it moving. The net system. Everybody should know about this one, especially if you've been in fantasy football for a while. This is one of my favorite systems. Zero running backs. This was originated by Sean Siegel. It's a dope system, dope strategy that I use. It's stacking up on all running backs beforehand. Just getting it in. So while the zero running back strategy works in all scoring leagues, it is the easiest to execute in PPR leagues. So remember that. And that's just on basis like, a lot of running backs, pass catching running backs. Anyway, they get a lot of those points per receptions and those PPR leagues. So the goal of the zero running back strategy is to avoid drafting running backs until at least round five. This means you are taking three or four wide receivers while adding a tight end and or quarterback. So last year I did this. Obviously, I kind of switched it up. I threw a monkey wrench in it. I want to say I had the fourth or the fifth pick in the draft. It was a no brainer. I had to go get Derrick Henry. I feel like he was going to have a monstrous season, and which he did. He was one of the top running backs. But after that, I stacked up on wide receivers. I went Chris Olave. I went pretty much young rookies and wide receivers. I thought could you know be a good fit for my team. And then I went for running backs later on in the round. So That's how that panned out, and I end up still getting the likes of the world. I had Ramondre Stevenson, Derrick Henry, so the rookie running back, Damian Pierce from the Houston Texans. And I had a good core of guys that basically I went 11-3. They took me where I needed to be, but I didn't win a championship. So it's all about choosing your strategy, choosing your advice. Last but not least, and this is just the top three that I would say, in my opinion, that are the best. Last but not least, zero wide receivers. Let's get into that. Zero wide receivers, the same strategy as zero running back, except flip the roles. The goal of zero wide receiver is to dominate fantasy football's most important position. That being said, running backs are still the most valuable. They are still the most valuable. So this is a system just like zero running backs, like it's explaining in this paragraph right here. Running backs are the most valuable still. Like, I don't care what no one tells you. I've been in fantasy football for a while. Man, those drafts, a lot of people go quarterbacks first with their first pick, and it's understandable, especially if you got one of those late round picks. Like we seen last year, man, like Pluto Astronaut in our league and Pity Pat Pat, and it's crazy, the two champs, man, they went heavy on quarterbacks first. Pluto Astronaut is one of our league guys. We know he's going to get Pat Mahomes. He liked Pat Mahomes on his first round draft pick, and then he built his team, after that, and he did a damn good job. Actually, he didn't even draft him this year. Pity Pat drafted Pat Mahomes. Pity Pat Mahomes, but he drafted Pat Mahomes and he traded him to Pluto Astronaut, for a haul. And look how that worked out. But long story short, man, running backs are still the most valuable. Like that is just that cornerstone position where they're always going to touch the ball. They want to get that goal line play. Um, any big Russian, play and put points up on the board. So, a lot of wide receivers, they're interchangeable. I mean, running backs are too, but come on, man. Like, we just know running backs are the most valuable. They're just like, of course, like a quarterback, but my advice, draft boards should be heavily stacked with running backs first. But that's what today's show is about. What's your strategy? What do you do differently that's going to take you to the next level in fantasy football, your fantasy football league that's going to potentially win your championship? What are you going to do to set the tone for your team in the season? It's just, some people want to go wide receiver heavy. That's what we got zero wide receivers for. Some people want to go running back heavy. Some people wanted to use the Cuddy system. Some people got their own strategy. They go on quarterback first. If it's a big tight end out there that's, consensus said that they're going to dominate, they're going to get a tight end first. So, like I said, man, there's different strategies out here. It's different vices. You pick your poison on what you want to do. And you just got to stick with it and rock with it. I wouldn't say give up on it. A lot of us may go in with, this is what I'm going to do this season. And a lot of us, after maybe the first loss, maybe the second loss, maybe even the third loss, or you're on a losing streak, or maybe if you are on a winning streak, we tend to give it up. Like, I really know that last year, the strategy that I used, I stuck with it. It gave me a good record. Like I said, I was 11-3, but I didn't bring it home. I didn't bring the championship home. A lot of our guys in our league turned it around. It was guys in our league that vets in our league that really don't make the playoffs. They really don't, make any noise during the regular season. But they turned it around last season. It was either based off of strategy. It could be luck. Football, fantasy football, a lot of people don't believe it, but there's a lot of luck in it too, man. Like every Sunday, every Monday, every Thursday night game, we plug and play these guys. You don't know if they're going to get hurt. You don't know if they're going to have productivity their way or how the game is going to go. So it is a lot. I don't want to say a little. It's a lot of luck in it. A lot of luck involved. So this basically what this show was about today. I just wanted to touch on it, just like each and every Wednesday coming forward. Just this is what strategy would you like to use or do you use in fantasy football? And does it work for you, man? You guys, comment, let me know what works for you. I'm not saying give all your techniques, or your secrets, but what really works for you, man? Like, fantasy football is a broad spectrum of what is going on in this world. right now with sports betting. So what works for you? But before we get out of here, always want to throw a nugget. A lot of guys don't know top five most fantasy points in a single game. This is what I felt was hand in hand with strategy. Whatever strategy works for you might not work for someone else. But with that being said, you got players out here that can make that strategy work game in, game out. And you'll be like, oh, I did this, I did that. And you really didn't do anything. You just had a breakout player for that season that just really, you know, took your team to that next level or gave you a good record or whatever the case may be. So, number one, Clinton Portis, man, running back. We all know who CP is. Denver Broncos, man, 55.4 points, man. So I just wanted to plug that in. He is still the number one scoring most fantasy points in a single game. So just wanted to throw that fun fact out there for you guys. Man, every Wednesday, the Commissioner's Corner. Please like, share, subscribe on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Google Podcasts. We're on Twitter, Instagram at NPR League. Man, like, share, subscribe if you like the show. There's going to be more each and every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Man, thank you for having me today. Like I said, what's your strategy? Draft coming up in April for the NFL. Of course, fantasy football is a few months away. You know how time flies. Thinking about it now, what is your strategy? What are you going to do different that's going to take you to the next level? All right. Peace and love.